Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of Get Good at OpenRCT2. In this video I'm going to show you how to build a Condor Ride. Now a Condor Ride is a ride which sits on a big tower and which has usually has 4 arms, and on the arms there's several vehicles that just keep spinning around in circles. Now in a real Condor this ride would also move up and down, but yeah, this version doesn't actually do that because there's no way for me to actually move these track pieces up and down. But yeah, there are several ways to build a Condor. Here's the way that how I usually make them, since it's a lot faster and easier to do. So this one is 5 by 5 tiles and has a big tower in the middle. And I also made a different version once, which I will show you now. Right, and here's another version of the Condor that you can also make. This one's 4 by 4 tiles and actually uses some trickery here in the middle to make it look like there's a vertical tower. Anyway, yeah, I will go to a different map and then I'll show you how to make these rides. Alright, to start off I'm going to build a roto drop tower. Now this tower is just visual. I think around 30 meters is high enough. It's only visual, so it doesn't actually need an entrance or an exit. And up here in this tower I'm going to make some tracks which the vehicles will sit on in the end. And for this I will use wooden wild mouse. Actually I'll use the steel wild mouse because it will be easier to see through these supports. First off, just going to make some track up here. I'll need to disable the support limits. I'll also disable clearance checks. This height is probably okay. And first off, I'm just going to make a square track around the tower. Alright, now I will delete some track pieces so we can make a few circles. Now, if you want some of the arms to spin in a different direction, this is probably the moment to do it. If you build a track in the other direction, then eventually the cars will spin in the other direction on it. Alright, I am keeping some straight track pieces on here, and that's so we will be able to merge into this track more easily later. Okay, now I will make the station for the ride. I will just build it over here. So make an entrance and an exit, which I will make invisible for now. Alright, as usual for a shoestring ride, we'll need to have some track behind it, so we can actually spawn the vehicles. This is probably enough. Now we'll need one track that goes up towards these pieces of track, and we'll need a track that goes down towards a control track. Now I'll start with the track that goes downwards now, and we'll make the control track, and only after that I'll make this track up here. Just because if we start with the bottom track, everything will be easier to see, because now there's not a lot of supports. Right, just making a track that slopes downwards. Here I'm just making some straight track pieces, and that will allow us to merge this track into the control track. I will call this ride Condor, because this is our main ride. Okay, underground I'll start a new ride, which will be our control track. I will make it exactly under our existing station. Okay, and now I will enable the cheat to allow chain lifts on all track pieces. I'll make a 180-degree turn here, and I'll enable chain lift on all these track pieces here. And here I'll make a straight track piece on the same spot as an existing straight track piece, and that will merge them into each other. Now I will immediately go to with the tail inspector onto this track, because when the vehicles arrive from the wooden wild coaster track, I want them to go to the steel wild mouse track here. So the steel wild mouse track has to be at the bottom here. Alright, this ensures that when the trains arrive here, they will go to the steel wild mouse track, since it's now here at the bottom. So now I will continue to make a control track. It can be fairly long, because these vehicles in the Condor, they move pretty fast. The longer you make this track, the longer the ride duration will be. Okay, this underground track doesn't need an entrance or an exit. We just need the station and the track pieces. Alright, now that this track has been built, we can actually make a track that connects to all these track pieces here on top. So for that I will use a track with chain lift, and I'm just going to build upwards until we're at the same level. You need to go downwards by one. Okay, and here I will keep making branches that branch off towards each of these small infinite loops. Alright, we first need to check our merges. So in the end we will have for each of these small circles we'll want to have 5 vehicles on it. So the first vehicle, we want to guide it underground onto the control track. Then the next 5 vehicles we'll want them to go straight here onto this piece of track. The next 5 we'll want them to go on this one, next 5 on this one, and the last 5 onto this one. So for this track over here, we'll want to make sure that the path leading into this circle is at the bottom here. So we can check this bottom track piece here. It's actually the straight track piece, so when the train arrives, it will first go in this direction. For the next one, we'll want to guide the trains into this branch. So yeah, the curve here, we'll want that to be lower. That's the case. So the train will be guided into here when it arrives. Over here, yeah, looks like the curve is also at the bottom. Now we should also check these merges into these little pieces of track. So we'll want the steel wild mouse track here to be at the bottom. Looks like that's the case. And over here, it's also the steel wild mouse in this merge. In this merge, also the steel wild mouse. And here the steel wild mouse is also at the bottom. And that ensures that the trains will go to this steel wild mouse track when they arrive here. Alright, I will hide the supports. You can do that with the 5 key, by the way, if you have default hotkeys set up. Alright, over here we'll want the first car to go underground here. Let's see, with the wooden wild mouse track. Okay, so in this tile, the track that leads downward is here at the bottom. So the train will want to go to the bottom when it arrives here. So that should all be good. Now I'm going to use the show vehicles from other track types seed. I'll disable the vehicle limits as well. So here we'll want to use the bobsled trains. I'll change it into one car or one train, and we'll have 21 cars per train. We'll want to change the ride mode. So for that I'll do show all operating modes, unlock operating limits, and we'll set it to a powered launch without passing station. I'll just do 6 kilometers per hour. Alright, I think everything is set up now. So let's open the ride, and as soon as the first train is or the first vehicle is on its way downward, I will pause the game and flip the order of these track pieces here. Alright, I have the correct ride now, which is this wooden wild mouse. So now I will test it. Alright, this front vehicle is now on its way down. So I will go into the tile inspector and I will flip the order of these two pieces. So this one leads up, this one leads down. The one that leads down is now at the bottom, and now the one that leads up is here at the bottom. They're on exactly the same position, so the rest of the train will now go up. And we see it move up now. Now make sure you don't set the chain lift speed too high, or else yeah, these vehicles can fly off the track here, and that's probably not something you'll want. Alright, we'll now wait for the first 5 vehicles to move onto this track here. So now we're at 3, 4, 5, and now I will switch the order of these two track pieces, so the rest of the train should continue on in the other direction. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I pause the game and we switch the order of these track pieces. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we switch the order of these track pieces. And that should be everything. Alright, now all our vehicles are in place. Now I'll close the ride, so when this vehicle reaches the station, we will be able to do some spacing, as these vehicles will then be in place here. I'll change the lift hill change speed a little bit, just so they go a little bit faster. Now the nice thing about these bobsleigh vehicles is that they will actually swing outwards as they go faster. Anyway, I will now use the ride vehicle editor, and I will just space out some of these vehicles a little bit. Not necessary, but I think it just looks a bit nicer. Alright, what I did was every first vehicle on every section I moved it backwards a little bit. The last vehicle I moved it forwards a little bit. That should make them clip through each other less. Now for the first vehicle of this ride, vehicle 1, it will be underground. So I'll set the number of seats for it to 0, and that will make it so guests cannot actually enter this underground vehicle. Alright, I will now once again test this ride and check if it gets its stats calculated. And in the meantime, I will make some supports for this ride. Now, for the supports for a ride like this, I typically use monorail track, since it looks nice and big. We'll have to make some diagonal track over here, somewhere on this level. Okay, now I've made some support arms here with the monorail track. Now, if you want to, you can make it look a little bit more sturdy. I'll do that by extending a piece here, and then from here you could add some of these support poles like this. Now, it's not strictly necessary to build these normal Condor ride. I don't think you actually see something like this. But yeah, it's really up to you. If you like that, you can do it. We could also move these arms downwards a little bit. Again, it's up to what you prefer. When you move these diagonal track pieces, make sure apply changes to entire track piece is on, or else you will only move a small part of the diagonal track piece, and that's pretty annoying to fix. Right, now let's see if this ride actually calculates its stats. It actually calculates its stats. If it doesn't, simply take one of these track pieces from the station to over here, and then just move it out of the way like this, and then take this Condor ride, close it, then put it in test mode again, and then when it completes a new circuit, then it should calculate its stats again. Alright, I will now use the allow arbitrary ride type changes sheet and change this ride into a lift. And when we do that, you can see the track becomes invisible, and the ride also transforms into a transport ride, and that will make it so that guests will ride it regardless of its stats, if it's as long as it's free. Alright, we'll want to get rid of all these supports here, so what I'm going to do is simply select the surface here on these track pieces, and I'll move the surface above all these track pieces. Now I've actually set up a hotkey for this, so for me it's Ctrl A. So yeah, that just makes it a little bit easier for me to do. So I just select these surface pieces, move them up above the other ones, and that will remove the supports. Never do this above water though, because then these track pieces yeah, will become very glitchy, and that's probably something you don't want. Now this track here, which these bobsleigh coaster cars go around on infinitely, you can also make that one invisible. You can also change it into a lift or a crooked house. Alright, now we're almost done. We probably still want to make a nice platform here, so for that I'll take this Condor ride. Well, first off, I'm just going to make the entrance visible again. Just going to move it out of the way, so I'm selecting the entrance here. I'm copying it to over here. I'll take the exit, I'll copy it to over here. I'll delete the original entrance and exit. Remember, this ride is 5 by 5 tiles wide. You could also make a big circle out of it maybe. But for now, here we'll just go for a square platform. So this platform also has to be 5 by 5. So that's why I'm moving the entrance and exit to over here. I'll make these track pieces here invisible. I could also just delete them. Move the surface up here just to make that support invisible again. Probably the easiest way to make a nice platform here is with flying saucer track, one of my favorites. I'll just put some flying saucer track here. And first I'll take some pieces here for the middle. I'll just copy and paste them here. And then we can make a nice platform around it. Now I'm using hotkeys for copying and pasting. I've actually set Ctrl V and Ctrl C for copying and pasting. Okay, in this original flying source track, you can either delete these track pieces or you can just make them invisible. Once again, I've set up a hotkey for making things invisible, but if you don't have that, you can also just press the eye icon for all of these track pieces. Okay, and if we now connect the path to this, you can see that the guests will actually be able to use this ride. Okay, when you move the entrance of the ride, make sure to press the make usable button, or else the queue doesn't work properly. You could see the queue didn't get this banner, but after I pressed the make usable button, it actually did. So make sure to do that, or else your ride will not work. I'll spawn in some guests so we can see them go on this ride. Alright, you can see the guests now go towards where their seat is, and then they will teleport onto the ride. Now this whole upper part obviously doesn't move all the way down, so you'll just have to imagine that it does that. I think a ride like this will probably look pretty nice in your park. Alright, this is one way to do a Condor ride. I will now show you how to make a 4x4 one. The first few steps are all the same. It's just yeah, the making of the tower and the supports that will be mostly different. And these tracks will all be a little bit closer together. Anyway, I'll start with making these tracks and ride under it. Then after that I'll show you how to make a tower for a 4x4 Condor ride. Alright, for a Condor of this size, it's probably easier to have the merging parts here on the outside, since you don't really have the space for them here in the middle. Anyway, I will just set up the ride first, and then after that I'm going to make the tower. Alright, the ride is all set up. Mostly did it the same as this one. And the method of getting these vehicles in their spot is very similar. I will just keep pausing after 5 vehicles pass through one of these junctions, and then I'll change the order in the tile inspector. And I just also made sure that all the merges are done correctly. Anyway, time to open the ride, and then I'll do the splitting. Okay, this vehicle is on its way down now, so I'll change the order of these track pieces here. So this is the track piece that leads downwards. I'll move it above the track piece that leads upwards. Now the rest of the train will go upwards. Alright, now we'll wait until 5 vehicles pass through this curve, and then I'll change the track order over here. Alright, I'll move the lift hill change speed up again. And it looks like another successful Condor ride. Now, for this example, I'm not going to move these vehicles apart. But you can see of all these 5 vehicles, 2 vehicles are slightly in each other. So if you want to change that, you can always do that with the ride vehicle editor, like I showed in this example. Alright, I'm just going to quickly check if it calculates its stats, and then after that I'm going to show you how to make the platform and the tower for this ride. Alright, it looks like this ride doesn't actually calculate its stats, so to solve that I will move this. I will take a track piece that leads from the station to these infinite loops. I'll just move this track piece out of the way. Then I will close the ride so that the stat calculation function stops. Then I'll put it in test mode again. And now, after it finishes, it should calculate its stats. Oh, and it looks like it already worked. So that's good. Remember that... oh, I should probably put a handyman there. If a ride doesn't have its stats calculated, then only about 10% of the guests that arrive at the cube will actually enter the ride. So it's probably always a good idea to get a ride stats calculated. Also, if a ride doesn't get its stats calculated, it will probably also block stat calculation for any other ride that's built after it. So always make sure that your rides actually calculate their stats. Alright, I will change this ride into a lift. I will give it an entrance and an exit and a queue, and then I'll make a platform for it, and after that I will build a tower. Now for this ride I've actually put the entrance and the exit a little bit into this ride. So you can see I moved them here on top of the platform instead of in front of it. This is also an option. I think this is a better option. If you have a platform like this. So I'll just make the entrance and exit invisible here. I will just copy and paste some of these platform pieces over it. And then you could make a little fence here, for example. With this mesh fence you can have a little gate like this. Can probably also hide this track here. Alright, now it's time to make the tower. Now, the tower, because this is 2 by 2, we cannot use a tower like this here in the middle, since this tower sits in the middle of a tile. And here, the center is actually on the edge, on the connecting edge between 4 tiles. So here we'll have to do something else, and something which I like to use here is actually diagonal track. Now a diagonal track can be very useful, since that's the property that since all diagonal track pieces actually consist of 4 track pieces which are all only visible from one angle. So I will just make some diagonal track here which I can then copy and paste from. Alright, this might look weird, but maybe it'll make sense later. So for example here we have diagonal track. Now if I hold Control, select this track piece and I copy and paste it somewhere. Now here you can see the diagonal track piece, but this piece that I selected is only visible from one angle. And let me remove it. So if I copy and paste this track piece over here, it will just look like a vertical tower. And if we do that then for every angle, then it will look like we have a vertical tower here. Right, I will just copy and paste it here. And if we just do this a few times, then we should have something which looks like a nice tower. Now it also doesn't really matter on which tile exactly you put these pieces, since they will only be visible from this angle anyway. So if it looks good from this angle, then you're basically done. The only thing you have to be careful about is that these track pieces actually go behind these vehicles here and in front of these vehicles. Alright, I think this looks pretty good. So I will now also do this for the other angles. Alright, now we have a tower here in the middle, which sits in the right place from every angle. Now we'll probably also want to have a few of these support beams. It's probably the best to also do this with this diagonal track, because then you can make sure that it looks good from every angle. Yeah, without these track pieces overlapping this track in weird ways. It will take a bit more effort, but I think it looks nicer in the end. So I'm just going to make some pieces of track that I can then copy and paste in. Now this tower looks a little bit more slender, so I think I will use single rail coaster track instead of monorail track. Alright, I just put some track pieces here which I'm going to copy and paste from. Alright, that was definitely a lot more complicated than this method over here. But I think yeah, this ride also looks cool. And you can also use this if you have a little bit less space. So it's really up to you what style of Condor you prefer. Yeah, this one's definitely a lot faster to make than this one, where you actually need quite a bit of diagonal track trickery in order to be able to do it. Okay, I'm just quickly going to open the ride so we can also see the guests enter this one. I actually forgot to set the underground vehicle to 0 seats. It's not strictly necessary, but it's probably better to prevent guests from actually entering the vehicle that's underground. I did make the station right under this one, so the guests won't be walking to a strange location when they exit the ride. But I think it's always best to prevent guests from actually entering the underground track. So I'm quickly going to close the ride, wait for it to return to the station, and then I'm going to set the seats for the front vehicle to 0. Alright, both Condor rides are now running, so now you know 2 methods to make a Condor ride like this. Let me know in the comments which one is your favorite and whether you think you'll be able to build one of these in your park as well. And if you like this tutorial, please also consider giving this video a like. It would really help out my channel. Alright, hope you enjoyed this tutorial, hope it's useful for you. I'll see you again in the next video. See you later.